Buenos dias, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. So today we have very special guest, Joe Martin Travel. So Joe has done things that you think are impossible, things that I certainly thought were impossible until I heard him talk. And he talks about it in such a way as in it's completely normal. Why would anyone not try and do these things? So the first one of those things is he's went from Asia, from Istanbul in Turkey, the Asia side of Europe, all the way through Europe to London with zero money. So zero donations. No one could give him any money or send him any money. He had zero money in his pocket, him and his friends, and had to completely rely on the kindness of strangers for transport, for accommodation at night time, and for food. So that's incredible journey, which helped him end up on BBC News. We talk in depth about that and how you can rely on strangers, how you can read people, and how you can get so many people willing to help you. We talk about using travel to get out of your comfort zone and get out of your shell. He says that he was very, very shy when he was 18, and solo travel experiences have completely opened up his mindset to what's possible and how to connect with people on a far deeper level. Some of the best connections he's ever had with people in his whole life have been from just simply traveling solo and enjoying meeting strangers. We talk about the best ways to spend money and the best ways to save money while you're traveling long term, what to spend your money on. So he really focuses on spending money on experiences rather than comfort while traveling or staying in fancy hotels or anything like that. So why experiences is so much more important to spend on, and why the other stuff you should save on, and exactly how to do that so that you can have a solo adventure like this yourself. We talk about knowing when to read people and how to trust people, and why that's so important, and why so many people are going to tell you if you're traveling solo how dangerous it is. Me traveling to very safe countries in Europe, I got plenty of it. So he's traveled to very dangerous countries, South America and all across Asia. And we talk about when should you be very, very cautious, when should you be very, very trusting, and how to read people and trust people so that you're not taken advantage of and that you're always moving from place to place safely. Then we go into the countries he's traveled to. So he's went to over 40 countries, including his first ever solo trip where he covered Southeast Asia, so Malaysia, the Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, Vietnam and Thailand with only 5,000 or 6,000, and he was gone for 4 months. Then he went to South America solo, covered about 8 countries, including Mexico, Guatemala, Colombia, El Salvador and Honduras. And his most recent trip where he covered India, Nepal, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Costa Rica, among others. So he's been a member of the Creator Club like me. He's used the Creator Club to grow his following by about, I think he said 15,000 since the start of the year. And his graph, as you'll hear in the podcast, seems to be going up and up and up. More and more doorways seem to be opening for Joe as he goes along. His content is absolutely excellent. He's got over 1 million views on some of his videos, and his tips on traveling are so simple and so intelligent and very, very inspiring for you to go out and have a solo adventure. I've met many people who've come up to me and said, solo travel, I'd love to do it, what's it like? I think Joe has definitely positioned himself in an expert at solo travel in so much more places than I've been to. And finally, we talk about travel for character building, for getting out of your shell, dealing with language barriers, why people love their country so much, and so much more. If you'd like to support this podcast, simply message me for a free consultation for online coaching. Don't forget to follow the 100% page and my personal page on Instagram. And while you're at it, follow Joe Martin Travel as well. Thanks for listening as always, and enjoy this wide-ranging conversation with Joe Martin. 3, 2, 1, live. Welcome back to the Kevin Walsh 100% podcast, and today we have very special guest, Joe Martin Travel. I think it's fair to say that he's an expert at this stage in solo travel adventures, in low budget travel, in anything to do with getting as far as possible with the least money possible. So nothing, I think we're here and we're in the villa for the Creator Club. Since you joined the Creator Club, what are you up, 10, 12,000 followers?
No more. I started 1,000 followers on Instagram, so yeah, about 17,000 growth since Creator Club.
Excellent, excellent. So I think the best place to start is your most recent adventure. I love a challenge myself. I love an adventure myself, but I think this one is one of the special ones. I don't think there's too many people that's going to take on a challenge like this. So the challenge was to get from
Asia, so like the Asian side of Istanbul,
right,
all the way back to London without spending any money at all.
and no one could send you money, no one could give you money, because
we had a rule
people
that-
were offering you money as you were going along. First of all, what was like, how did you come up with that idea, and why were you so adamant that no one was going to give you money?
Because literally like 5 years ago, a YouTuber I watched, Simon Wilson, went from New York to LA with no money, so he went all across America. So I kind of got the idea from that, and Hardest Geezer did a run where he ran from Asia to London. So I kind of used the Asia to London idea, and then thought, no money, because they're the sort of videos I like watching on YouTube.
But what was so appealing about no money? Because I'm sure there was people offering, okay, the guy's having to eat in 2 days, or because you're doing live updates.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was people offering to buy you food, and
Yeah, I had people message like, oh, can I send you a bit of money for a McDonald's?
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like, oh, I have to say no.
yeah, we
But-
were saying that in the group.
Yeah.
Why were you so adamant with no money?
Because the whole point of it was showing how far like the kindness of strangers can get you. Because every time I travel, I've been to places like El Salvador, Honduras, which are dangerous. But when you go there, you're met by so many kind people. So we kind of wanted to show how far that can take you, and that every country has kind people.
Yeah.
So I think, so we did a rule where no one we knew or met before was allowed to help.
Right.
So it was fully strangers and the kindness of strangers.
Wow. So you started in Istanbul, and how many countries did you go through?
10, I think. 10.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what was the first 2 or 3 countries?
So
And maybe the first 2 or 3 climates, what was it like? How did it change as you were going across?
what in terms of how hard it is hitchhiking and or,
Everything really.
yeah, so Turkey, because Istanbul's quite far, like nearly out of Turkey, we got to right to the border, called a place called Edirne, on our first day, which is half an hour from the Bulgarian border.
Which country does Turkey border with Asia?
With Asia the other side.
Yeah.
Somewhere like,
the
is it
Asia,
like Georgia.
the Asia side of Istanbul.
It's because Istanbul's split between Bosphorus Bridge.
I know that, yeah.
yeah.
But what's the other country?
As in Turkey. Turkey's
border.
European and Asian.
Is it really?
Istanbul's the only country in the city in the world which is in 2 continents.
Really?
So that's why we had to go to the far side of Istanbul.
Yeah.
So on the first day we were like, are we even gonna get out of Istanbul?
Yeah.
Because it's the biggest city in Europe as well.
Really? It's the biggest city in Europe?
Yeah. So
Yeah, I know a lot of history of Istanbul.
Yeah.
When it was Constantinople and
yeah.
what was it in World War II?
I don't know, you're a better historian than me.
Because it played a massive part in World War One. Oh fuck!
My
I
history
know
is
that it was
dreadful.
Constantinople, and then it called something else, and then it got Istanbul. They only got that name recently. What's
Yeah.
Istanbul like as a city?
Yeah, it's interesting. I had like 2 days before the challenge, so we were kind of trying to work out, we're trying to plan a bit for the trip.
Yeah.
But also, like, we've got to see the buildings, all the mosques there are amazing, and the people are really friendly. Turkey, I'd say, was the easiest country.
Really?
We were only there for a day, but that's because, like, we were hitchhiking. Pretty much every time we were waiting 5 minutes, and one time we waited 20 minutes, and we're like, oh, this is tough. This.
Yeah.
Not knowing down the line we're going to be waiting like 8 hours at some points. Yeah.
Okay, so how many miles is it from, say, Istanbul to the far side
To the far side.
of Turkey?
Not 200 miles maybe?
Really?
Yeah, so that we
You're
did.
out of Turkey again in 200 miles?
From Istanbul to the Bulgarian border.
Really? That's
Yeah,
not
so
too
we-
far, so.
No, we did it all in. Well, we got to Edirne, which is half an hour from the border on the first day. So yeah, that was not too bad, and we probably could have gone further.
And where did you stay that first night?
We were messaging loads of like hostels and hotels,
Yes.
and one of them was like a new hotel that not even open yet. but they were like, oh, you're welcome to stay at ours and stuff. So the first night we had it so easy. We had a hotel, and then the next morning they gave us breakfast as well. So it kind of set us up for the day.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So that gave you a false sense of
Yeah.
we're going to coast through this.
Yeah.
So when did it start to get challenging?
Day 2. So we get to the border of Bulgaria.
Yeah.
Like, we're 20 metres away from the border. Try and walk across, and they say you're not allowed to walk across. You have to be in a vehicle. So we stand by the...
And did you know that before you started?
No. We honestly
Really?
didn't plan at all.
Well, I'm guilty of that myself.
Yeah. So, yeah, we stood 10 metres from the border just trying to hitchhike. It took us 4 hours to hitchhike. We finally got a lift. And then because the border's so busy, it took 4 hours to get across the border as well. So it wasn't until like 5 p.m. before we actually got into Bulgaria.
So you were the whole day basically just trying to get...
Yeah, like no food as well. And arrived in this little town called Haskovo, which is just a random town in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
Couldn't find any food. Like, we asked and tried to all our couch surfing requests, which was our main idea of how we were going to stay in different accommodations. All of those got rejected, so we thought our best bet here is just find a field out of town and sleep there. Luckily, on our walk there, we found a plum tree, so we had a little bit of food, and we found an abandoned hotel, like this smashed up hotel in this random field.
Yeah.
And yeah, we stayed there for the night.
Really? Wow, so full on.
So yeah, so day 1 we're like, we could get this done in a week, and then after day 2 we're like, oh, it could take a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know before I forgot to ask, who did you go with, or who was crazy enough to go on this trip?
Yeah, a guy called Kieran, who I actually only met in Nepal. I travelled with him and his girlfriend in Nepal for 10 days. I met them there.
How long was that?
That was in around April time. So I went from India straight to Nepal and met him there for 10 days. And that was the only time I've ever met him. And I put on my Instagram story, I've got a stupid idea for a challenge. Does anyone want to join? And he stupidly said yes.
Yeah. What it is, the stupider or the crazier the challenge, you're going to attract a certain type of personality.
Yeah.
It's like, did you ever see the ad for the first Arctic expedition?
No.
It's like, he was inundated with requests after it. It was basically like freezing cold temperatures, near a certain chance of death, for all this, to get first people to get to the North Pole or the South Pole. I must find it. And it's like he got so many requests he couldn't deal with the volume, because everyone just wanted an adventure, they wanted a challenge.
Yeah, it was a massive, because Kieran's quite a shy person, like going up to people at the start, just hated. To be fair, I didn't particularly like it, and that's why we wanted to do the challenge, because it puts you in uncomfortable positions.
1000%. Even my travelling this year, the amount of times I've had to make conversation with people, it's so good for you.
Yeah, and that was one of the major things, seeing like, especially the growth of him. He'd never done YouTube, and by the end he was walking down busy streets, just filming himself, not caring, like going up to people, asking for a lift, because you had no choice.
Yeah. Well, the more, like, you're gonna push yourself. Maybe that's what my problem with YouTube was I was always doing it in a comfortable place. I was always doing, like, you go through a challenge like that, you're always doing the most uncomfortable thing, asking strangers for food, asking them for accommodation, talking on YouTube in front of people. It's like, it's going to fast track your results. You're going to get better at it in a month than you would have in a year at home.
Yeah, it's especially there was no second option. Like, if we didn't, in Germany we struggled to hitchhike, so I was like, we need to change our tactic, we need to actively go up to people and ask them. And you can't shy out of it, because you're either, if you don't do it, you're just going to be stuck in a random petrol station in Germany.
Yeah,
even
the safety net is gone.
Yeah, even in trying to get the ferry across at the end, constantly, went up to people for I think 8 hours, just constantly, people coming in, kept getting rejected for 8 hours, and but there was no other option.
But did people think you were crazy? Like, how did they reject you?
Yeah, it ranged. Like some people just flat out no. But the thing with the ferry, most people just didn't have space in their car.
Okay.
Like they had full cars, so that was what they said. But it could have been an excuse, but it's their choice, to be honest.
Yeah, but if you don't ask, the worst they can say.
Yeah, as I said, you've got no choice. And the worst they could say is no, and it only took one person. Like every time I went up to someone, I'm like, this is going to be them, the person that's going to take us across.
Well, that's what they say in sales and cold calling and reaching out to people. Is you have to send 100 messages to get one back, which I'm completely alien to. I've never done that before. I'm going to start like outreach practices soon, but that's like in-person outreach. That's like going door-to-door sales.
Yeah.
It's so tough for a lot of people to do something like that.
Yeah, it's a numbers game, and as I say, you just need to get in the mentality. It's only one. You're only one yes, and every time you ask, it's the same likelihood as the one before.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it worked out in the end. Sometimes it took 5 minutes. Sometimes it took.
So how many countries did you go through from start to finish?
10, I think.
10 countries. What were the 10?
Turkey, test my geography. Turkey, Bulgaria, Serbia, then Croatia, Slovenia. We drove through Austria. We didn't actually stop there. Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, France, England.
Wow. So where was the place that you actually enjoyed travelling through?
Slovenia.
Really?
Because we had like the easiest day there. Because we were in Zagreb before, so we hitchhiked an hour and a half to get to Ljubljana.
Zagreb is in Serbia?
Croatia.
Croatia, okay.
Yeah, so we got there by 10 a.m. and we went on couch surfing. They have a meet-up section. So someone in Ljubljana came and met us, bought some snacks, showed us around the city all day. So it was one of the first places we actually got to see.
Yeah.
Because most places you were just in and out. And then in the evening, some guy I'd never met messaged me on Instagram saying, we live in Ljubljana, we'll pick you up from the city centre and you can stay at my house. So, and then we had beers and pizza that evening.
Oh,
it just felt like a normal day travelling.
Yeah, incredible. So what was special about the city though? What was...
I don't know, it seemed a really nice place. Obviously I only had a day there. And it's mainly like the people that made the place.
Of course.
Like the guy we met who showed us around, he'd never met us before or anything, and he came with a little goodie bag of snacks, like took time out of his day to show us the city. Obviously it's quite hard to see a city sometimes because we had no money. So we struggled in Munich because we were by ourselves, we had no money. There's not many tourist attractions you can do with no money.
Really? There's still, at this stage, there's not much?
Yeah, not particularly. And when we had a day off, we were kind of like so tired that...
I'm very guilty of the most expensive tourist attractions that I can go to. Well, for food and tourist attractions, I would like not hold back.
Yeah.
Then I'd save on other things.
Yeah.
Because I don't really drink alcohol, which is a big one for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Whenever they go, they just spend so much on partying as such.
Yeah, I always say to budget travellers, like my main advice is just don't cheap out on activities. Because that's the stuff you're going to remember. Cheap out on the transport, the hostels, and even food, like eat local food.
Yeah.
But activities, that's... When you look back at your
local
trip,
food often doesn't mean worse food.
no, it's normally better.
Yeah, it's usually better. That's what they say here about Ibiza, is the local places are the best.
Yeah.
My two housemates are Spanish, so I've gone to a lot of the local restaurants with like farm to table, and the food is incredible.
Yeah.
It's definitely better than a lot of the bigger name.
Yeah, well they're used to cooking it, aren't they? It's what they grew up with.
And it's fresher too.
Yeah.
But what were you saying just before that? You were...
What about?
It was the tourist attractions, not to cheap out on that?
Yeah, like, because obviously a lot of people who follow me are like budget travellers. So I always say, because a lot of people are like, I've got a £20 a day budget, I need to stick to it. But some days people are gonna be doing an activity which is more than that, and that's what you're gonna remember at the end of your trip. Like when I look back to like the best stuff I did in my trip in summer, it'll be like the hike, the Annapurna circuit hike in Nepal, and that was expensive, but it's the stuff you remember. Whereas getting a slightly better bus, which is more expensive, you don't remember.
No.
And so if you save the money with that, you can use it for the better activities.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. That's very simple, but because when I went traveling anywhere, all I remember is the activities.
Yeah.
The museums, the nightclubs. But when I was in South Africa, I did so many activities. I did paragliding, swimming with sharks, safaris, and that's what I really remember more than anything else.
Yeah, that's what I say, because when I look back on my trips,
and that's what I've been showing people when
Yeah,
in South Africa. I did this. I did bungee jump. It's never. I went to this luxurious hotel or anything else.
That's always my mentality. I save money to travel, but I'd rather. Obviously, I budget travel by staying in hostels and stuff like that, but I don't want to just drag out the travel by not doing the stuff I want to do. I'd rather it be shorter and actually see the country and get to see the best bits of the country.
Yeah. Well, it's cliche and everyone's heard it that you want to spend your money on experiences rather than possessions, but it's harder in practice.
Yeah, I find it easier when I'm travelling, but when I come back home I start looking at clothes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
how do you stop that?
Because I'm fully in the mentality of if I spend £30 on a t-shirt, that's one day travelling. Like I'm such in that mentality that a night out is £100, £200. That'll do me a week travelling, or that'll pay for a hostel for 10 nights. And the quicker I save money, the quicker I can go away, and the longer I can go away.
Incredible, yeah. So, just to finish on the Asia to London, did you find that people got colder or less generous the closer you got to London?
Yeah.
That's what I kind of picked up from the stories.
Yes, slightly. It was kind of just pockets of. I'd say the two hardest countries were Germany. That was really tough to hitchhike. And I'd say Bulgaria was quite tough, especially earlier on because of the language barrier as well. That was a massive issue. Until we hit Germany, most people couldn't really speak English.
Wow.
So we're having to Google Translate the whole time. But yeah, I'd say in general, people became slightly colder. But then we still had amazing experiences in places like Belgium, in France, in Dunkirk. This guy took time out of his day to pick us up, show us around Dunkirk.
You were in Dunkirk. We had any museums around?
No, we didn't have time. We didn't actually get there till around 7 p.m, 8 p.m. in the evening, and we had nowhere to stay. Luckily, this guy picked us up from a petrol station and let us.
French or English?
French.
Really? Because they're quite cold.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But he took us to his house, his wife made us dinner, and then he showed us around, obviously the beaches and everything. And we had nowhere to stay that night, so he let us sleep in the back of his car.
Wow.
Just so we were safe, because I don't think there's too many safe areas to sleep rough there.
So, is your faith in how kind people are, kind strangers are, more or less after the trip?
More, 100%. When I went into the challenge, I wasn't nervous till the 2 days before, and then you realise what you're asking people to do. You're trying to get all the way from Asia to London, and it makes me want to help people more.
When I'm listening to you talk, and the people in Germany didn't stop. This person gave you free accommodation. This person bought you pizza. I'm just wondering if I met you and I didn't know what I would do.
Yeah.
Because it's easy for me to say, I'd be the one buying your pizza and you'd be staying in my house, but it's bizarre, really, isn't it? Because there's always a risk with taking in strangers, to play devil's advocate a bit.
Especially with two lads. Kieran's quite a big lad. He's probably 6'2", 6'3", quite built, and that's probably. It did mean we get picked up less, Like when hitchhiking, because you'd struggle to pick up two lads. But we had this 24-year-old girl who picked us up. She was just by herself and drove us like across the border. I was surprised, because mainly it was just men. I was actually surprised that a woman like trusted us, essentially.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. But she would be called stupid by a lot of people, obviously.
Yeah.
So it was very brave of her to do it.
Yeah.
And kind, obviously.
Yeah, a lot of people we met had hitchhiked before.
Oh,
so I think that's a common theme. When they were younger, they'd hitchhike, so they want to help other hitchhikers. Like I'd pick up hitchhikers now because I've done it. And I kind of know, the scenario they're in.
And you know that they're relying on people like you.
Yeah. But then you do occasionally hear bad stories.
Of course,
So.
But it's like, I remember hearing a podcast before, they were talking about Uber. And they're like, what if one of the drivers, rape someone or murder someone, and like they just said that when you're dealing with that numbers, that's going to happen. It's like there's no doubt there's going to be these off cases. Does that mean no one should ever be allowed hitchhike? Does it mean no one should ever be allowed use Uber or a taxi because one in every however 100,000 or a million is a psychopath?
And with the German guy we met who took us from Croatia all the way to Germany, he didn't have space in his car and he had a friend in another car, and he said, you need to put your stuff in the other car, and he was like, you need to trust me, like I'm trusting you. That's a two-way trust. We're trusting them to drive us to the place we want to go, sort of thing, and they're trusting us as well that we're not going to do anything bad. Okay,
so why do you trust people so much? How did you end up with that?
I think a lot of you kind of get a vibe early on as well, and everyone that stopped for us.
But you must be quite skilled by this stage at reading that vibe.
Yeah, and it helped that I was with Kieran as well. Obviously, it's slightly different if you're by yourself, but if there's two of us, it gives you a bit more comfort. But yeah, I've travelled a lot of places, and nothing's particularly ever bad has happened. Because I know that if I get in a taxi, I'll check that I'm going in the right direction. I'm quite sensible in those sort of scenarios. So especially like walking back at night by yourself.
But why do you think you have such trust in people? Where does that come from? Has it always been there?
I'd say I used to be very shy, whereas travel's kind of brought it out from me. And I think it's just experience of meeting so many people in different countries, different backgrounds, and them all being kind, that you kind of build up this experience that people are good. So then, even if one scenario did happen that's bad, well, that's one scenario in the thousands of scenarios where I've had good experiences.
And what do you say to the people who be of the opinion that that one bad scenario and that's all they focus in on is the person who went hitchhiking and got murdered or whatever, and they're saying to you can't go hitchhiking now, because that's a very common thing. I say if I'm like, people thought I was mad for driving across Europe in my car, when it's nothing compared to some of the places you've been to, or hitchhiking, which is far more dangerous. And they think I'm mad, or what if this happens, what if that happens? What do you have naysayers, you have negativity like that? Sometimes from a very innocent perspective, is they're not trying to put you down or anything.
They're trying to keep you.
How do you not let that noise in and still go on the adventure anyway for someone who wants to do something like you? Because
the majority of people that tell me, oh, you can't go to Colombia, it's really dangerous, I asked them, have you been to Colombia? And they haven't. But I was speaking to some American girls.
So it's that simple?
Yeah, I was speaking to some American girls saying, I'd never go to Mexico, it's so dangerous. I was like, I went for 6 weeks, and it's fine. And they'd never been. And that's kind of what I wanted to show, because every time I go travelling, people tell me, oh, are you able to go there? Is it safe? Like my mum's always googling it.
Of course, yeah.
But I think a lot of websites say everywhere is dangerous. But a lot of them aren't looking to pick on tourists, or a lot of, in places like El Salvador, it's like gang violence. So obviously we're lucky as men that I always go with the mentality, the worst that's going to happen is I'm going to get robbed. And if someone comes up to me and tries to rob me, there's my stuff. Obviously we're lucky because it's different for solo, like females, they're a lot more in danger.
Of course.
But you meet so many, there's actually more solo travellers that are female than there are male.
Really?
I think the stats,
Wow.
70 or 80% of solo travellers are female.
Wow.
100%. Every time I travel, yeah, the majority of them are female.
I wouldn't have expected
Yeah.
that at all. Now that I have done a lot of solo traveling, I have met plenty of girls who are traveling. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected that, because you would expect, that's very brave or courageous of them, because they, like you said, they are in far more danger than men. Or maybe we're just led to believe they're in far more danger.
Yeah, I've still met so many that, have travelled for ages, always been safe. Because a lot of times in hostels you meet other people, so you're rarely going out in the evening by yourself.
Do you think it's a media thing that they're hyper focusing in on the one bad thing that happens?
Yeah. The media loves to put on negative stories, which is why I try to push ours in terms of it being positive. But also, even when we were on the BBC, like one night we were meant to be on, and then this is BBC London, someone in London got stabbed, so we got moved to the day after because they wanted to show the negative news. It gets more clicks, it's more...
So tell me about that BBC interview, that must have been special.
Yeah, so before we went...
Whether you like the BBC or not is another question.
Yeah.
But to get on the national broadcaster is special.
Yeah, it's actually kind of Kieran's doing really. Before we went on the challenge, he was emailing loads of like little newspapers, and because he's from London, some of them wrote up a story about us, and I think the BBC picked it up from that. So we got a message saying, would you like to be on the BBC? And that was on day one of the challenge.
Wow.
So yeah, it was nerve-wracking, but...
And so when you say you were on the BBC, how did it go down?
We had a Zoom call with one of the presenters, so they obviously screen record the Zoom call. It's pre-recorded, I think we did it around 3-4 p.m, and they put it live at 6. So yeah, they just basically ran us through what they're going to ask and asked us a few questions.
And they were good to deal with?
Yeah, they're really nice. The actual presenter, the first presenter we had with our initial interview on day one, actually donated to our charity after.
Brilliant.
He was really nice. And then we had another BBC interview once we'd finished the challenge around a week after.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So how was it staged? What questions did they ask, or was it unusual dealing with mainstream media like that?
There's a lot of different people we had to speak to get through all the hoops and everything.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I'd say the second interview was better. It's more like positive, focused on like amazing, raising money for charity and stuff like this. I feel the first interview they did try and portray some questions badly. Then like they asked Kieran, oh, is this just a way for you to have a cheap holiday? Which they know what they're doing with it. And yeah, Kieran was saying it's been tough already. It was only day one, but yeah, they were kind of saying, oh, is it just a cheap way to get a holiday? And Kieran was like, I'm never doing this again. But so we just focus on getting outside our comfort zone, showing the kindness of people and raising money for charity along the way.
And what was the final figure you raised for charity?
2,514, I think.
Excellent. Was that your first time doing a charity fundraiser?
I'd actually done a smaller one at uni where I raised like £500 because it was a smaller. It was actually something quite similar. I don't know if you've ever heard of the University Great Escape.
No.
So you start in your uni. For me, that was Nottingham, and you have 36 hours to get as far away from your uni with no money.
I've heard of that, yeah.
So I did that with a friend there and raised some money for charity for that. I managed to get to Brno in Czech Republic.
With no money?
Yeah, but it was it wasn't as good because you could raise money. You raised money for charity before the event, and then you could ask people to like donate for you to go away. So it's slightly, if I did it myself, I'd give a longer period, but say you can't collect money at all.
Yeah.
So we ended up just getting a flight sort of thing.
So let's move a little bit from the charity and the Asia to London challenge, and let's go back a little bit further. So when was your first long-term travel adventure, low-budget travel adventure, and what made you want to do it solo? I love traveling solo, but so many people who I've met over the years have said, gee, I would never travel solo, I don't know how you travel solo. So what age were you at? What did you study in college? How did you get into solo travel?
Yeah, so I was 20, so it's straight after university.
What did you do in university?
Industrial economics with insurance.
Okay, different. Sounds very corporate.
Yeah, it was essentially half business, half economics. And in second,
did you like it?
No.
Okay.
I loved university because when I was 18, I was very shy. And the thought of going straight into a job from there, I thought I was too shy. So I went to university because that's what everyone does. And yeah, it brought me out of my shell a bit.
That's a very cliche thing to say.
Yeah, I went to university.
That's what everyone does. That's why so many people go, because that's what people do.
And I chose my course because I was quite good at business, I was alright at economics. Let's just put them together and go somewhere. But yeah, it brought me out of my shell a bit, but it's still, like towards the end of second year and third year, I just didn't enjoy. I wasn't interested in my course, and obviously third year is quite intense of really working hard.
So did you complete the course?
Yeah, I did complete it and got 2-1, so worked out in the end. Not that I've used it since.
Were you planning to travel solo all through that last year?
So I think I booked my flight around November time. And ended up going in June. I actually had a friend who was doing a year abroad from uni, and she was living in Kuala Lumpur. So it was solo travel, but my first experience was flying out and spending the first month with her in the Philippines. So I kind of got eased into it.
And was that your first time travelling?
First time solo. I did a little interrail trip when I was 17, 18 with 2 friends.
Around Europe?
Yeah.
Okay, but back to the solo one.
Yeah, so the reason I wanted to do it, I was just in a bit of a rut at uni and wanted to massively get out of my comfort zone.
Adventure.
Yeah, I was still very shy. Like the thought of solo travelling, having to speak to strangers.
But it's easier to speak to strangers, I find, than it is to people in your own university course or your own family, your own friends, obviously, often. It's easier to open up to them, definitely.
Yeah, but I had no experience of solo travel because my mum was saying, oh, how long are you going to go for? I was like, I don't know. I might be home in a week because I might not enjoy it. I just didn't know what to expect at all.
Yeah.
But luckily I had my friend there with me for the first month to kind of ease me into it. And then after that I went off by myself.
So where was that first trip to?
Southeast Asia. So I did around 6 or 7 countries around Southeast Asia.
What were the 6 or 7? This is where, for the people listening, it will start to get bizarre when we start naming how many countries, how many continents.
Yeah.
So what was that first trip?
Malaysia, Philippines, Vietnam, Singapore, Indonesia, and Thailand for a little bit.
Incredible. How was that?
Oh, I loved it. That's where, as soon as I did it, I knew I wanted to go again.
And how long was that trip?
4 months.
And how much roughly did it cost?
About 5.5, 6k.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
But honestly,
so
I loved it.
5.5 or 6k for 7 countries in 4 months.
Yeah.
Flights, accommodation, spending money.
Yeah.
Wow.
travel cheap. The hostels out there are between £5 and £10.
A night.
So yeah.
And how much baggage or luggage did you bring?
Just hand luggage. Just a little 40-litre bag, which just sneaks in as hand luggage.
So there was no actual luggage, like
No, I just
all hand luggage.
yeah.
And what? Tell us a bit, like to nerd it out a little bit.
Pardon?
To nerd it out a little bit on
Yeah.
on the details. What exactly is in that hand luggage? If you're going traveling for 4.5 months and you're only bringing hand luggage, what exactly is in it?
Just not a lot. Now I travel with slightly more stuff because I've got all my camera gear, whereas I wasn't doing any content then. So it's mainly just shorts and t-shirts.
So you did no content that first trip?
No, I've got occasional photos on my phone, but no.
Okay.
What's mad is...
And do you think has adding the camera gear, has that heightened the travel experience or lessened it?
Yeah, I love doing it.
Yeah.
And
I'm the same, because obviously people, they do a lot of bitching and moaning about people not living in the moment if they're on the camera or whatever else.
yeah.
I've done a lot of travelling where I haven't taken a photo, and then I've done a lot where I have the cameras and taking videos, taking photos. I couldn't say that there's any less of an enjoyment when you're video.
I'd say it's actually better because it puts me in scenarios where, like, I want to speak to locals and stuff because I'm doing YouTube. And for me, like YouTube, it doesn't get many views or anything, but my grandma watches all of them, my family watches all of them.
Yeah.
So it's a way for them to keep up, because normally they just get a text message of, oh, what I've done that day, whereas they can actually see it now.
Yeah.
And I always think in 50 years' time, I'll be able to watch back pretty much all my travels.
Yeah, which is incredible.
Yeah.
You'll have literally a movie there for your kids kind of.
Yeah, like my kids can watch me go from Asia to London.
Yeah, you won't even have to tell them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
When you think about it like that. So back to what's in the bag when you start traveling with just hand.
Yeah, Southeast Asia is quite an easy one because you know it's going to be pretty much sunny every day.
Yeah.
So it's just shorts, t-shirts, a few toiletries. That's about it. But my main...
Shorts, t-shirts.
One pair of shoes.
Okay.
I still do that now. I wear one pair of shoes for 6 months at a time.
And did you ever read any books or blogs on traveling before you started?
No, mainly YouTube videos.
Did you ever hear of the book Vagabonding by Ralph Potts?
No.
Or 4-Hour Work Week?
4-Hour Work Week I'm actually reading at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're brilliant books on traveling solo.
Yeah.
They've had a big impact on me and like my perception of what's possible travel wise and how long you can go for and things like that.
Yeah, I think you can do it a lot cheaper as well. Like 5.5 to 6k for 4 months is a lot for Southeast Asia.
Really?
Like, I'm a budget traveller, but I'd say like high end of the budget. Some people I know travel ridiculously cheap, like £300-400 a month, because they just, if you use stuff like couch surfing and eat local food, you can easily do it under £1,000 a month.
So was there a moment in that first trip to Southeast Asia where you were like, because I know I've had a few special moments that I'm nearly like tears in my eyes, my hair is standing up on my arm and I'm just like, wow, I'm doing it, I'm in this place I plan to be or this place I plan to be. So I might give you an example. It's the Eiffel Tower. So when I was in Paris, as cliche tourist monument as you can think of, but I had a photo in my room that my mother put up 5-6 years ago that was the Eiffel Tower. Just a normal one that you'd buy in a shop, and then that's where my parents had holidayed when there was photos of them beside the Eiffel Tower. So when I told myself I was going to do certain things, maybe 10-20 different things, like the club in Berlin, and when I was in Berlin I was going to do the Brandenburg Gate 5 or 6 times, and just like, most people, they get to those tourist spots, they look at them, they take a photo and they're gone. What I wanted to go on at daytime, at night time, on a sunny day, on a rainy day. Wanted to go look at it from different angles and really absorb it, because millions and millions of people are absorbing these sites every day, and the history attached to them. But was there a moment
I had it with the Eiffel Tower. I had it snowboarding in the Alps. I told myself that. I had it driving through the Alps from Zurich to Milan. Was there a moment in that first travel trip where you're like, wow, I'm really doing it?
When you said it, it was actually my second trip that came to mind straight away.
What was that?
It was when I went to Mexico, and literally, I think it was on my second day, we did this like boat tour, and we had a mariachi band come on, and they were playing, and I just sat there, just like, this is amazing.
It's like a meditative, out of body kind of experience.
Yeah, it's one of those that, it's like 2 days ago I was in England, and now I'm in Mexico on a boat with a group of strangers from a hostel.
Yeah.
And a mariachi band's playing.
Yeah, I had it a few times in South Africa as well. And you don't have to be solo to have that.
Yeah.
I've had it traveling with other people as well. But it's special.
Yeah, it's moments where you just like, this is amazing. I remember with my hiking in Nepal, I remember just sitting on a rock looking about, just like, I'm so lucky to be here. Like, it's just amazing.
Yeah, like that feeling of gratitude, that like, wow, this, having a cup of coffee. Coffee. I get it drinking coffee a lot because I absolutely love drinking coffee, and I love going to cafes, all types of cafes. So if I'm in a city and I'm traveling solo and I'm just sitting down, simplest thing in the world, just sitting down having a cup of coffee, looking around at strangers, you just feel so grateful that you have that opportunity.
Yeah. Even yesterday morning, I got out of bed and just went straight into the pool. I was like, blue sky, in a pool in Ibiza.
I've had that with swimming. I told myself the first time I moved, or holidayed in Ibiza, that if I really want to spend the summer here and I want to live beside the beach and I want to go swimming every morning. So numerous times this summer I've had that. I'd be in the ocean, I'd just be like, sunset, unbelievable, best feeling ever.
Yeah, it's something that I'm working on, like trying to be more grateful at times, because it's so easy to do the activity and just move on, what's the next thing, what's the next country.
Yeah.
Whereas that's why I quite like travelling slow and really seeing a country and having those moments where you do just sit down and like really appreciate like how lucky you are to travel to all these destinations.
Because for the people listening or watching, that's really what you're trying to sell to them, a moment like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's everything really. It's those moments. Even looking back at them, the personal growth as well. That's one of the things that I push the most for solo travel, because I know how much my confidence has grown compared to like when I was 18, like before I travelled. Like as I said on my Instagram story a few months back, I used to have like anxiety to go to my local co-op, just in case I had to speak to someone if something went wrong.
I actually get that as well. I go to the quietest times of the day and I hate bumping into people.
So like going from that to like solo travelling pretty much all over the world.
So it's like that quote that's big at the minute. I think it's Chris Williamson and Hormozy. Do you know that one? About like, you can't talk yourself into having more confidence, or you can't just talk affirmations in the mirror. You need to have like concrete proof that you are more confident, or you are who you say you are. So like, you can talk and pretend to be more confident, or we can say we're more confident, but it doesn't actually mean anything. But traveling to 20 countries solo is like, okay, I am more confident. It doesn't matter if I think I'm shy, I've proven I'm not. Yeah,
because if you look back and I've done something harder, or even if something I'm nervous for or think it's going to be hard, I look back and say, well, I was also nervous about doing this thing and I managed to achieve it. But even like social media, I remember on my first trip when I said I didn't take any camera gear, I wanted to do YouTube, but I was too nervous. I no way had the confidence for it. So even now, if no one watches the videos, I've shown that I've got the confidence to walk around filming myself, which to me is enough.
Exactly. That's a brilliant point.
And a lot of people like see tips of how to start solo travelling, and it's one of those. A lot of people say, "Oh, go for a meal by yourself, just at a local restaurant." I think that's actually quite hard. My advice is book the flight and go for it.
Yeah.
Like whatever happens, you're going to be nervous. I still get nervous for my trips now, like every single time. I've got a thing where the week before.
If you didn't have the nerves, there'd be probably no point. There'd be no, like, nerves are a little bit of like, see, everyone likes to use the term these days, anxiety. But like, anxiety is nerves, it's excitement, it's anticipation, it's worry. It's a lot of different things, they just call it anxiety.
Yeah.
It can be a very positive thing, like, you know, you might have that anticipation and that excitement. It's not necessarily a negative emotion, even though people are calling it anxiety.
No, I actually try and seek it out a bit when I'm travelling.
Of course, I do as well. Yeah.
And that's why people are saying, "Oh, why do you want to go to Kyrgyzstan? Why are you doing Asia to London?" It's because if I went somewhere like Thailand, I know what to expect. Like, there's no... I'd still be excited to go, but there would be no nervousness.
Yeah.
Whereas Kyrgyzstan, I went and I purposely didn't really look into it because I wanted to go there and have no expectations and have that nervous feeling of what's going to happen.
Do we have it too soft these days, as in, like, men used to hop on a boat and sail the high seas and go to places where no one had been before, and a lot of the world was undiscovered, whether now we're pretty much, the whole globe has been conquered.
Yeah. And even when you are travelling, it's so easy now with stuff like Google Translate, Google Maps. I can't imagine...
Oh man, my trip has been made so much easier by Google Maps.
I said to Kieran, imagine doing Asia to London and we just had a big map. We had no Google Translate. It just wouldn't be possible.
It was possible though. It was. Because people went across Europe on horses.
Yeah, it's just... but it must have been so tough.
I know, yeah.
And it is kind of... We've been brought up on that. Like, I couldn't read a map. If I had a normal map now, I wouldn't be able to read it.
My dad used to use a map. I remember him using a map going to Dublin.
Yeah.
Different parts of Dublin or whatever you take this way.
I remember when I was younger in the car, my dad would be driving, my mum would be like working it out on the map.
Unbelievable.
Whereas now you're just so reliant on...
So you had that first trip where you did 7 countries in Asia. How much did you love that, or would you recommend that particular trip? Because that's quite a common route, isn't it?
Yeah, I was about to say, I think that's probably the best one. It's the one most people start with.
I know numerous people who have trained clients and they've done that one. Southeast Asia, a few different countries at once, maybe 2-3 months. So how much do you look back on that and say, okay, that would be something I'd recommend or I'd love?
Yeah, I think it's a perfect place to start. There's so many other backpackers to meet in so many good hostels. Most people there speak English. There's very established transport links. There's very backpacker routes which make it easy. And yeah, it's still very diverse, and you'll see loads of different places, and you can't have a lot of choice between the countries.
And the weather's good.
Yeah, and the weather's good, and it's very cheap. It's probably the cheapest.
Even though apparently it's
area
2 or 3 times as more expensive than it used to be, and it's still cheap.
Yeah, it's still cheap in terms of compared to other places.
And what was from that particular trip, was there a must visit place?
I'd say my favourite thing I did was the Hai Giang Loop in Vietnam. It's like a 4-day motorbike loop over the mountains of Vietnam.
Were you driving the motorbike?
Yeah, I think they've got stricter now, or less people do it. They just sit on the back of a local driver. But yeah, I drove myself. I've still got a bit of Vietnamese gravel there from where I fell off the bike and it just healed over.
Oh my god! So was that you were just literally given a bike and away you go?
There was a big group of us. There's probably 30 of us.
Had you ever rode a bike before?
I did a bit on a scooter in the Philippines, but this is why not really. And this is, I'd say, 70-80% of our group fell off. It's a common thing. A lot of people fell off, and it's actually where I had my 21st birthday during that loop.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so that's the first trip.
Yeah.
That was, how long did you say exactly?
It's like 3.5, 4 months.
3.5, 4 months. So you come back to the UK,
Yeah.
you work for how long, and then the next trip?
So I kind of jumped between jobs. I was focused on, like, my brother and stuff has gone straight into being an accountant. My other brother's straight into like PR marketing. But I was really wanted to try different stuff out and see what I liked. I really wanted a job that I loved doing. I just didn't want to settle. So I started working for free for a football company where I provided like stats for the Champions League, stats for different clubs. So I did that for a few months and I enjoyed it, but I was still wanted to work in travel. So I started working in travel for a few months and then COVID hit. So then pretty much the travel industry closed down, so I lost that job, and my uncle owns a plastering business and construction stayed open, so he said while it's locked down and stuff, you might as well learn to be a plasterer. So I ended up doing that for probably about 1.5 years before my next trip actually started.
Tough work.
Yeah, in summer it's not too bad, but in winter it's tough. And I'm going back to it in 2 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
Those tradesmen work hard, don't they?
Yeah, it's just in winter you get up, it's pitch black, and because I'm on
In
like
English and Irish weather.
like new build houses, there's no lights, there's no heating. So in winter we've got a big jacket on with our little torch and just plastering all day. Yeah, it is tough.
And how long did you do that for before your next trip?
About 1.5 years.
Okay, and how much did you save?
About 9,000.
That's excellent.
Because, well, we're plastering pretty much the first year. Well, the first 6 months you're on very low pay because you're just learning. And then the next like 6 months to a year, your pay starts to go up a little bit. And about after a year, you can go off by yourself.
It's physically tough work though, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, every day I get home and I'm absolutely knackered. I have to drag myself to the gym. And then I just sit on my bed for the rest of the evening.
So, what was your trip after the Southeast Asia one? It was South America?
It was Central America. So I started in Mexico, worked my way through Central America, and then ended in Colombia.
Excellent. So, what countries were in that second trip? That's the one that probably interests me the most.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very curious about that area and those countries, about the Caribbean, Colombia.
Yeah, so that was Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, and then Colombia. I missed out a few of the more expensive countries. My true budget traveller style.
So what were the most expensive ones you
Costa Rica.
You missed out on?
Costa Rica is very expensive.
But you've time to go back.
Yeah, I kind of left it. I didn't go to Belize either, and Panama.
Okay, so with the places you did go to, how did that rate in terms of the places you have been to? How special was it?
I think that trip was my favourite so far.
Okay.
It was...
Because it's a less common one than Southeast Asia.
Yeah, it's a growing one now. It is still quite... there's a lot of backpackers. It's still reasonably easy. There's shuttles everywhere and buses. But yeah, I think it is my favourite, especially because I want to learn Spanish. So it gave me a time to actually try and learn for 6 months.
Is it difficult going to those countries without Spanish?
Yeah, well, I'd say Central America wasn't too bad. Colombia was tough, even with Spanish.
A lot of people have told me that South America, you just can't do it without Spanish.
Yeah, it surprised me. I'd say Mexico and Central America, most people spoke a bit of English, and their Spanish is quite easy. Whereas Colombia, even that was my last place, so I did have basic Spanish, but it was like another language. It made it tough, but
because of the accents and tones.
I would, if people want to go on that trip, I'd try and learn a few basics at home, but as soon as you get out there, I'd do a Spanish school. Just do like 2 weeks of Spanish school and that will get you the basics.
Okay, but why did you love that trip more than anywhere else you've been to? Was there a particular place? Was it the food, the people? What was it?
I'd say Guatemala. made my trip. I stayed there for 2 months.
You're a huge Guatemala fan.
Yeah. So I worked in a hostel there for a month, and it's quite. If you stay in one place, you kind of get more of a vibe of the place, meet more of the locals because they'd all come into the hostel, and I was working behind the bar, so you actually got to speak to them a lot, and yeah, it's just the people really. I absolutely loved Guatemala. I really want to go back. I did a Spanish school there as well, a 2-week Spanish school where I live with a Guatemalan family as well.
How good is your Spanish school? Or your Spanish now?
Not very good because I've not practiced for around a year. That's why next year I kind of want to live in like South America and fully stay somewhere for a few months with Spanish lessons and really practice it. But yeah, the Spanish school in Guatemala is so worth doing if you go out there, because I'd have breakfast with the family where we're just speaking Spanish, 4 hours of lessons, lunch with the family, and then dinner with the family. Just literally living with them, having to speak Spanish the whole time. So it's a fast way of learning.
Okay, and what else about that trip or Guatemala was special? You seem to think that, or you seem to have experienced that the most special parts is always the people.
Yeah, it definitely is, especially.
Do you think is that because it helped your communication skills so much, and that's what you see or perceive that you've grown the most from, is the interactions with people?
I think it's like sharing the experience with other people. Like, it's good to do stuff by yourself, but my favourite thing solo travelling is meeting people who I didn't know and then doing an amazing like activity with them or something and sharing that experience. And when you look back on it, like, all my best experiences were because of the people, not actually the activity. The activity was still good, but that coupled with really good people.
But that's great awareness that you've realised that.
Yeah, but that's what I say to people, and everyone realises that after they travel. You could be anywhere in the world, but if there's good people.
Yeah, well, all people need connection, and they need to be seen and heard. Do you think is it easier to connect with people when you're a solo traveller?
Yeah, 100%, because I feel if you go with a friend, you stay in your comfort zone a bit. You'll speak to them, and it's like the Asia to London thing where I was saying you can't give yourself a second option. If your only option is I either have to meet people or I'm going to be by myself for months, you're going to meet people.
Yeah. When you take away the safety net.
Yeah, that's why I say people just book the flight, because then the safety net's gone.
Yeah, and burn the boats, as Tony Robbins said. Yeah. It is very true though. If you have no other option, then you're going to do what you have to.
You have to.
You give yourself an out.
Yeah, you'll take it.
No matter who you are.
Yeah.
So what was Colombia like? A particular interest in Colombia?
Yeah, it's a place I really want to go back to. I was only there for 3 weeks, and that part of the trip I'd pretty much ran out of money.
Yeah.
So I was doing it cheap, but yeah, it's a really interesting place. Like, Medellin is a place where I want to go back to and live for a bit. Like, I loved it. Like, you'd love it because of the history. I'm not big into history, but I was there for 5 days and I think I did 4 walking tours. Just because I loved it. It was so interesting because it's quite recent history, and the people there are like affected by it, and you can see it essentially, and how they've turned around the city. If you go to Comuna 13 now, it's a big area for like art and loads of like street dancers, and it's a massive like bustling area. Whereas before it used to be like the main area where Pablo Escobar did his like operations essentially. So just the way they've changed the city is amazing.
That's the very inspiring thing that reminds me of Berlin as well, and even in Paris around the Bastille area you have these really famous, really historic and often brutal areas, and then they've turned them into these monuments for hope, or like symbols of growth. That's what the Germans, when I did a couple of tours in Berlin, that's what they said the Germans are famous for, is turning old historical buildings and monuments and places and turning them into symbols of change and symbols of growth. So what they've done with the Berlin Wall, which is one of the most famous historical places in the world, is like now it's like an art gallery for hope and freedom, whether it used to be an exact opposite of that. It used to be a symbol for oppression, and you used to get shot for trying to climb over to freedom. You know.
Yeah.
And so then that was your trip. That's your second long-term trip,
Yeah.
and 7 more countries there. So you've done one more long-term trip.
Yeah, that was my most recent one.
Yeah.
I left in March. And
Now this one has an interesting list of countries, to say the least.
Yeah, so this one was, how long was this? Like 3.5, 4 months. Started in India, then went to Nepal, and then went to Sri Lanka, and then went to Kyrgyzstan. Which, yeah.
Those were the 4 countries.
Those were the 4 countries. Yeah.
And you absolutely loved this trip. This was the one you pushed the most on social media.
Yeah.
Your social media skills were probably the best. You hit a viral reel, was it 4 million?
On my Instagram it's at about 2.8 million.
2.8 million?
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
There's just a trend going around saying like how many countries people have been to, and here are my awards of like best countries, like best nature, best food. So I just made one of them saying, oh, I've been to 36 countries and these are my awards. And yeah, people loved it, really. Especially because if you compliment their country, these countries, you go to these places and they absolutely love their country. Whereas I don't think we really have that in England. But I'll post anything about like India and Nepal and I'll get so many messages like, oh, thanks for visiting my country. Like, come back, please, come back to our country. And I think that's why there's a lot of comments, saying thanks for coming to our country and putting it in the awards. Yeah, it went a bit mad.
So what did it feel like to have a reel going viral like that?
Yeah, it's good because I was saying like...
Because when you make a piece of content and you put a lot of effort into it, which I've done loads of times, when it does get a bit of traction, it's a great feeling.
Yeah, it's
and
exciting.
A lot of people underestimate how good it feels.
Yeah, it's exciting, especially, I was saying, even on my Instagram story, I put one of those question things, like ask me any question about travel. And before that, I'd get about 3 questions. Like, one of them would be my mum, one of them would be my mate. Yeah. And I put it up and I just had loads of questions. And it was just exciting to like reply to all of them, and a lot of them were saying, oh, I want to solo travel, and just being able to help other people.
Yeah, I think talking on stories is a big one.
Yeah.
Like if you answer someone's question and you talk about what they asked, like you can be guaranteed at least another 10 or 20 of your followers wanted to ask the same question.
Yeah.
So you're talking to them and it feels like they're talking to like me and you now.
Yeah.
I really like talking on stories. It's helped me engage with my audience.
Yeah, it's something I want to do more because
people get to those Q&As.
Yeah.
And you're simply just asking questions that everyone wants to ask.
Yeah.
Or answering questions that everyone wants answered.
Yeah.
So that trip, the photos are epic. The content was epic. I loved following the journey. It was just insane. It was just the places you were, especially Kyrgyzstan.
So it's a little country below. Well, it's not that little, but below Kazakhstan, near like Uzbekistan.
That was where you got the photo of the horse on the eagle.
Yeah, the photo. It was so good.
The infamous. That is an incredible photo.
Yeah, my mates were like, "That's going straight on your Tinder."
it almost looks photoshopped.
I had someone message me saying, "Oh, is this real?"
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. It was just.
So I'll put it up on the screen, but it's like.
Yeah, it's my
describe
favourite
it.
photo.
I'll let you describe it.
Yeah,
It has to be your favourite photo.
Yeah, there was this guy who did an eagle show and he came with a horse. So it's just me on a horse holding this eagle, like trying to tilt it so it gets its wings out. It's so heavy, and just the mountains. It's like the Atlas Mountain. No, not Atlas. Can't remember what the mountains are called, but like the mountains of Kyrgyzstan in the background. And yeah, it's like my favourite photo ever.
Oh, it's epic.
What helps is my friend who I was with is a good photographer, so yeah, she managed to get a good photo. But
you'll do well in your life to get another travel photo.
Yeah,
maybe a machine gun, maybe on a bear.
Yeah.
So that was, what did you enjoy about that trip? Why was it so? That's like everywhere you go is unique, and the people are unique and they have their own stories and cultures. But compared to the Southeast Asia and Central America, What made you want to go to these countries, and how did it compare?
What made me want to go was I knew I had a set date of when I was going, but I didn't know where I was going until 3 weeks before. And as I said, I want that nervous feeling of not knowing what to expect. So I thought, let's go India, because I've heard India's a tough place to travel. It's chaotic, but it's also very interesting. So I booked my flight to India, and the reason I liked the trip was all the places were very different. Whereas if you go, like Central America, I didn't get many flights, and it's all the same area, like same language. Whereas this trip was just completely different. Like comparing,
That's what it felt like watching. It felt like, okay, you're going from place to place, but these places are completely different. Whether, like you said, Southeast Asia, Central America, there's a similar kind of vibe.
Yeah. And that's what people ask. Oh, what's your favourite country of that trip? I'm like, you can't compare India to Kyrgyzstan. They're just completely different.
And the people even look different.
Yeah, it's completely different places.
Was there a language barrier in those countries?
Not really. India, they're good at English. It was only really Kyrgyzstan where it's only really the young generation that speaks some English.
But you can't have met too many Kyrgyzstan people. You can't have met too many travellers in Kyrgyzstan.
No, not particularly.
Not from the west, anyway.
In my first hostel, I was actually surprised. There was quite a lot of travellers, and I found it really interesting because there were travellers that you think I'm well travelled. That hostel, I looked like I'd been nowhere.
Really?
Some of them were just like, oh, I've just got back from Mongolia, Uzbekistan, Japan. I met 5 people in that hostel all at the same time that were like cycling around the world. So one guy was about to cycle through Afghanistan. This like 2 French people cycling, trying to work out how to get through Russia.
Wow.
I looked like I'd hardly travelled compared to that lot.
Which is good.
Yeah.
It's like going for the gym courses I've been on. You think you're strong and you're you're like lifting the lightest weight of the course. It like inspires you to okay, there's more levels to this game.
Yeah, I'm a novice.
Yeah. So with that trip, let's go a little bit more into detail before we finish up. So, what was so unique about Kyrgyzstan and Nepal? Because you did quite a lot of posting on stories, got quite a lot of videos. Nepal, is it the Himalayas?
Yeah.
Is it the people? Is it the food? What?
I'd say Nepal, the people were really friendly, but I'd say the hike, like if you go to Nepal, do a long hike. I did a 10-day Annapurna circuit.
I remember, yeah.
And the views are just amazing. But as I said, it's always the people. I was with 3 other people, an English girl, an English lad, and a Dutch girl. And we all just got on so well. So we're just walking every day, chatting to each other, just in nature, like no signal on your phone. It was just lovely. And our guide was really nice, and we had a porter as well. We just all really got on. And then you also have the amazing nature around you. So that's what made my trip. And I actually say Nepal is now my favourite country.
I know, you've said that a few times, yeah.
Yeah.
Nepal, Guatemala.
Yeah.
You couldn't really compare those 2 countries.
No. Apart from
way.
they're both beautiful.
Yeah. But beautiful is
completely different. Yeah.
Like I'm sure you could call Switzerland beautiful.
Yeah.
You could call Spain beautiful. It's
Yeah.
like completely different terrains. So why was Nepal your favourite place now compared to other places?
It's just that one activity. Like the hike was amazing. It's quite diverse as well. Like I did a safari there where we saw rhinos.
Wow.
That was where, I don't know if you've seen the video, that one did well. Where I was eating dinner and we were on a balcony, looked to the side, there's a rhino walking down the street.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
I like double taked. I looked over. I was like, that can't be a rhino. I was like, Kieran, look at that. It's just a rhino walking down the street.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then you finished up that trip. How much was that trip in total? How much did it cost?
maybe 7,000.
So the first one was about 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Second one about 9.
Yeah.
Third one about 7.
Yeah.
And a total of how many countries?
Have I done? 41, I think I'm on.
Wow.
But there's a few that are controversial, like Kosovo.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's around 41.
And what's the plan or the message for the future? What lessons are you taking into what?
I just want to keep experiencing different places and yeah, just keep getting out of my comfort zone. Obviously it gets harder now because I've grown so much doing these countries, and learning Spanish is a big one for me, and actually living somewhere.
So do you feel by seeing the world and all these different places you can ultimately see yourself a lot more clearly?
Yeah, 100%, because well, you're by yourself, you don't have anyone else to rely on. Like if you have a problem, you're the one out there that has to solve it. And yeah, it's a massive thing that I've taken away from it as it's just grown as a person and constantly just trying to be better. And like your trips inspired me in terms of living in different places. Like I kind of want to do that instead of constantly travelling around the country, and actually live in one place and learn more about that
place. You can definitely do that. You can definitely do that. You just have to earn money as you're travelling.
Yeah, well that's the plan for.
So there's a lot. If you could take in, I don't know, €200 a week to, let's say, €700 a week.
Yeah.
Which is very achievable for vast majority of people. You definitely, especially with your growing Instagram, growing social media accounts. How many countries can you live in for €500 to €700 a week?
A lot.
Like a lot.
Yeah.
And then if you cut it back down to €200 or €300 a week, how many countries? Still plenty.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm working on for the rest of the year, sort of thing. While I'm doing my plastering, I'm setting up my own marketing agency.
Good. Okay. So to finish up, we'll get you to plug that. So what's your?
But it's not. I've actually not set up It's individual companies that I'm just targeting and running their like social media. I've got one client already where I'm creating videos for their Instagram, TikTok and Facebook, and then I'm looking more into like Facebook ads, Google ads, and basically run that for different travel companies, which will then allow me to live in different areas while still doing my own content. So that's the plan for the next few months.
That's a brilliant gateway to living somewhere remotely.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing. And I think definitely the lesson I'm taking from you is I need to give up some of my comforts.
Yeah.
My golf full of books and 2 or 3 suitcases of clothes, and just go more low budget, more adventure style. Which I do plan on doing.
Yeah.
I have planned on doing that in certain places, but like 3, 4, 5 months with just hand luggage is as extreme as it gets.
Even if you did a 2-week trip to somewhere you don't know what to expect, like Kyrgyzstan, like you just learn so much compared to just going to places where you know what's going to happen, essentially.
You just inspired me to do that. Especially if I do get to South America or Southeast Asia, I could plant myself somewhere, have a base, and then head off for a month doing your type of travel with just hand luggage.
That's
best of both worlds then.
Set yourself a base and travel from that area.
Okay, well that's been brilliant. Really enjoyed that, Joe. It sounds like by the time we meet again we could have something else to talk about. A few new countries on the list. It's been brilliant to talk to you, and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, mate. Appreciate it.